moving on to item 8.2, the Hyperion District Museum. And can I get a motion on this one? Okay, we want to, oh, go ahead, Councilor.
I just have a question on this one.
Yep.
So the recommendation is approve by including 25,000 in 2025. So if I remember correctly, we had put aside in, I believe, the 2024 budget, $100,000 for the museum. So I'm a bit confused here, because we had set aside $100,000 for the museum for CFIP grants upgrades to the museum. So
And I
now,
think they've done some of those, like that new sidewalks and walkway there.
okay, that was part of the CFIP, and I think that was 20,000, so there still should be 75,000 out of that 100 that, so why would we increase the budget by 25,000 if we already have money in there? So I'm a bit confused here.
Okay, yeah, and I had some questions on this one too, but let's start with a motion, because that's what we usually do, and then we can change your
Well, I don't know
motions.
what the motion is, because I'm confused.
Oh, but then we discuss. You gotta make the motion and then we discuss.
All right,
The council direct administration to provide a letter of support, if required, to the Hyperion and District Museum for the request for the CFIP grant to assist them in replacing the metal panels in 2025.
okay, so we can start with that specific motion. There's actually 3 motions in here, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yes, your worship, because without the other 2 motions, the third motion is useless. Because they are looking at a new project in 2025, what you talked about was the budget for 2024. So if we're gonna take that money forward, we could use that money to take it forward for 2025 from 2024. That's a council decision, but for right now, they're looking to make sure they can get it in there, so they can get a quote, and they're looking to do a separate CFIP grant to assist with this project, the $25,000 to replace. As they first mentioned, they wanted to paint. I talked with public works staff, and painting is not gonna do it, it's 3 years at the most, and they have to redo it again. The best way to do it, and there's no doubt that once they get into this, it's gonna be rotten wood in there. So they say the best thing to do is to go, take out the bad boards, put in the new boards, and put metal siding on there so that it'll be a long-term solution to the problem. So, but without the commitment to the money for the 25,000, and this would be capital funds, not operating budgets.
So just so I'm clear, and they're applying for a grant to replace that siding.
They will, subject to our approval.
And then that grant is sort of a matching grant, so they want us to approve the other half of that grant, right? Is that the catch here, 25 and 25, to give them?
The $25,000 that they're talking about would be the total cost of the project. They would apply for a CFIP grant, but they would need the approval for the project, which would be at $25,000. If they get the CFIP grant for half or even a portion of it, that would then be applied towards the 25. So it could come down to 12,500 if it's a matching grant.
Okay,
Okay, you see
so
where?
I see, okay.
Okay, that
So
makes
they're
sense.
asking for it all, and then they
In
would
the
try.
event that it's not approved for CFIP.
Got it, okay. Now I understand better. Well, that's still we could still approve a letter so that they could get going on that application.
The approval of the support for the grant would be a commitment to the funding.
Or at least to have the funding. If you said we would approve this based on getting the grant, that's the other way we could approach it, is saying, yeah, we'll
I
approve.
think the government usually for grants, they require that commitment up front. They're not gonna say based on somebody else making a donation afterwards.
Okay,
And again, it's our building,
Exactly.
so, I mean, it's part of asset management and maintaining town structures, so,
And if we don't do it, the building will rot.
Yeah, so I mean, it's our building, so whether they get the CFIP grant or not, I think that needs to be addressed.
Okay, so I'm gonna just ask Councillor Stenhouse, if you're willing, would you add that first, or the second motion to yours, those two motions together, that they would, because those two go together, and then we can address the operating one separately.
Okay, no, not at this time, because this museum has come up many times through budget deliberations, through council meetings. They needed a new roof, and then they needed the concrete wall replaced because it was leaking, and then they needed where the mural is and this and that. I would like a history of all the repairs we've done to this museum and why do we keep repeating them? Like, they needed a new roof, we put on a new roof. They painted the tin and then that didn't work, so then they had to replace the tin, and then they needed the wall where the mural is, it was leaking, so they had to replace that. I would like more information, like how many walls and roofs and everything have we replaced on this museum? Is there not a warranty on this stuff? I need a better history of how much we put into this and what walls, what roof, what have we replaced?
I can say with that tin, the company that replaced it and painted it are now defunct. So there was no recall or retribution from that company saying, hey, you did shoddy work, because they basically went bankrupt and don't exist anymore.
Irving, you had something to add?
Yeah, just to remind everybody that it's the museum making the request, but it's for, on behalf of a building that they occupy, which is owned by the town, so we are looking after our own asset. It's just they're doing that request, and that's fine, and if there's more information required, but, I can define that, if that's the motion, the will of council. But,
I understand what you're saying, but it just seems like every couple of years we're replacing this wall. Now we're gonna replace that wall, now we're gonna replace that wall, we gotta do the roof, oh, we made a mistake on that wall. Is it worth putting all this money into it, or do we just need a new building?
Councillor Martins?
So Herman, do we make the decisions of these contractors, or is it the museum staff that, bring forward here and want this?
we would put out a request for proposal.
Okay.
and
It is the
wait
town that
to-
does it.
After Public Works, they would get the quotes in, and they would review them, and, come up with the best
So is
value.
this roofing company our, like, we,
The quotes you've got in here are quotes that the museum went out to get an idea of what's gonna cost, if they would find something and what the cost would be. The quotes came back and I believe it was around 21 and change, but based on the advice I was given by Public Works, that will only prolong the property rather than by just painting it. I hate to say it, the old saying, it's like putting lipstick on a pig. It's a bad finish to the outside of the building. We need to address the outside of the building, we need to replace the rotten boards, and we need to put steel on there, not just replace the painting boards, because that never goes long. As far as evaluation of the building itself, which is a town asset, it's no different than the town office, the recreation, arenas, the swimming pools, any other facility. We don't have full evaluations done, because to bring somebody in to do an asset review, there's a lot of money, and the town, I should say the town has decided not to pursue that avenue. To do so would be a lot of money. We are, as these old buildings get older, a good example is the arena. There's a situation over there with the doors, and they're basically no longer able to properly secure the building. So that's gonna have to be addressed this year. But, there's the same thing with that arena. Last year we did, the concrete surface underneath, I can't remember, it was a puck board or something else that was done, if I remember correctly, 2 years ago. With the swimming pool, every year there's something going on in the swimming pool, whether it's replacing the filter system, it's just, I hate to say, the cost of doing business, especially with older buildings, but you run the same problem with newer buildings. Newer buildings will give you for a short amount of time is a warranty warranty from the builder. But again, a building of that size here in town, I'm not a real estate person, but I'm sure the price to build something to replace that would be north of $2 million. I can almost pretty well assure that just because of the size that you require. You take a look at the size of that building with the across the street liquor store is, it's probably comparable size. And if you look to see what the value of that building is, yeah, it's just something that happens year after year. And unfortunately with older buildings, it's gonna happen more and more. If we get it fixed the first time properly, that's the biggest thing, to do it properly, not to just do the short fixes and then pull out the problems. We do it right the first time. In the case of this problem, is what I would advise is the proper way to fix it.
Councillor Shishin?
So what I'm hearing is it's more of a proper fix, I guess, so to speak, because it's not only addressing cosmetically, but it's actually looking, I guess, structurally for the roof as part. So, yeah, that's part and parcel with old buildings. I mean, if you don't maintain them, they're not gonna be there. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to provide a letter of support, and that's where she wants to leave it, so that they can apply for the CPEP grant. Let's just deal with that one, and then we can deal with some of the other ones, like we say this. So, any other questions on providing a letter of support? All in favor? It's carried. I will make the motion that council approve Ivory District Museum request to replace the metal panels in 2025 by including $25,000 into the 2025 budget, and for administration to include this in the 2025 budget deliberations.
Can I just add one word in there?
Sure.
If you go to the version, to include $25,000 in the 2025 capital budget,
Sure, capital budget,
not to confuse the two pots of money.
capital. And I'm making that motion for two reasons. One, I think, number one, it is our building and we need to maintain it. And if we don't have that motion, then we may not get the grant, but I think it's sort of I don't know. I'm thinking with some grants, if you go ahead and say, yep, we're gonna give them 25,000, so we don't need the grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what worries me with this, but what I've heard from Herman is they won't give you the grant unless you've already approved it. So to me, I'm going, if they know we've got the money to do it, they're not gonna give us the grant, they'll give it to somebody else.
And so therefore, the motion, maybe you want to put in there an amount up to $25,000 depending on grant availability. That would help.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Approval or something,
That's what I'd like to see, so they know that it's, we're counting on that grant, right? It's not, because I would want to see that grant in place.
Sure. Previous, it's cabinets listed as council meeting right now.
Yeah. They're counting, I'm sure they are.
They strategize.
Yeah, it's, yeah. I hope they got better things than that to do, you would hope, yeah. Okay, any other discussion on that one? Yeah, go ahead.
So I wanted, back to Donna's question, where's the 75,000? Why do we need 25,000 if we've got 75?
But did they get 75? Like I looked back and the CFAP grant was only 30 grand.
No,
No, no,
we have a
we
lot
put
of
that money.
in our
Oh,
capital.
we put.
Yeah, it should be a deferred contribution, no?
I don't have the finance officer or finance manager to answer that question, and I'm not up on that subject, so I won't even try and guess it. That should come with the financial report and the question asked to her at that
Well,
time.
can we make a motion then, friendly amendment, can we get a better explanation and so that we're clear? Because I agree with Donna, I agree with Donna, if we have the $75,000 there, why are we adding $25,000 to the pot?
No, I totally understand where they're coming from. However, I'm sort of comfortable with the motion because in capital dollars, it's allocated to a project. If that project is done and it's finished and there's $75,000 left, which I don't know if there is, but if it's done and finished, then that money goes back into reserves. So that money will get taken off and then this 25,000 would get added in. If, so that to me isn't a big deal, but if it's, it should be that capital list from last year, where are we at, what happened with it, and is it done, right? We had that report last meeting and I can't remember if the library was on it, but I do know we got the sidewalks report and stuff there this year.
And it may be a question at the budget, the museum has a budget committee also, if I remember.
Yeah.
And so that'd be a question maybe at that, to ask the museum committee what they did.
They don't have a budget meeting, it's a library that has a budget meeting.
Okay, but the museum has a meeting though? We have people-
Well, they'll submit their budget
Yeah.
and stuff, but based on what you said, why can't we make a motion that just says to take the leftover money from, that was allotted to the museum in 2024 and move it to 2025?
Yeah, well, to me, it's half of one,
Money needs to be returned into the books as coming from that project, going back to capital grants or wherever we got capital reserves. That needs to come back cleanly. Then anything taken out of there has to come out cleanly so that you know that the money's coming back from this project. The money that's being allocated is for that project. The siding, metal siding, and that was never into the package originally, so it couldn't be included or utilized to fund the, sorry, I got distracted by a white stick up there, it's room cleaners.
This room,
Lost my train of thought there also, sorry. But again, it's not that you can just take this money pot and move it over to this pot, it needs to come back into the books and then go back out from the books. So it's clean, so when the auditor looks at it, it's not money being moved and reallocated to something else, because that just sets you up for all kinds of problems, not just for the museum, but it could be for anything. It's the same thing as we hold our managers accountable for their budgets.
right,
If we give them $20,000 for administration, and they spend $120,000 because they took $100,000 they had for a new vehicle, put for that.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's your motion, Brian?
My
Again?
motion was, as indicated in there, to approve the $25,000 for that, based on, I forget getting
Contingent
the
on
grant.
them getting the
An
grant.
amount of up to $25,000.
Up to, depending on the CFEP grant.
Okay.
So, yeah. Councillor Stenhouse?
So I'm confused about your comment. So again, I think we should actually table this until we get the finance and everything straight here, because your comment, because we don't know exactly what it said, if it was for improvements or whatever. And you're saying, okay, they weren't getting done, so we put it into reserves and now we're gonna rebudget it. I can't make sense out of that, because it's like, okay, so we're gonna do improvements this year, okay, we budgeted 100, we put it into reserves. So now we'll budget this year for improvements. It's just a rolling thing. When are we going to use that money? To me, it seems like we're just constantly charging out, and the job isn't getting done and we're throwing it into reserve.
But then, just given what the CEO talked about is, it needs to, so money going in needs to have expenditures shown, and then that money that's left over needs to go back, it needs to be clean. So we need now to allocate $25,000 to getting metal siding on. They may not, well, and actually it's for, and then we're gonna look for a match. But that money then may not get totally used, or it may, but we need to show cleanly that there was $25,000 allocated, And in the books, it's more for auditing purposes and things like that. And we show money going in, where it was spent, and then the money that wasn't spent is put back. And so that's what that's for.
Yeah, I get that, just of it, but okay, so let's, this is all theory that there's $75,000 left over. So that's gonna go into reserves. So why would we budget for 25,000? Why would we not pull that out of that reserve and put it in there?
Okay, see how,
And that would come back to council with the final budget, that there's $25,000 allocation for this, the source of the funds is the capital reserve potentially for this. Okay, and that's the way the budget would then go, but for now, we're just doing the expenditure portion of it. Then once, if there's money coming back into the reserves to be utilized, or if there's still additional funds available, then we could potentially say, here's where you're gonna get that $25,000 from. But that's a budget process, this is just putting a project on the books so that we can go out and get quotes for it. And, because again, these people are now just starting to line up the projects for next spring and next summer. So if you wait till next spring and next summer to get the RFP out, you probably won't get a work for it. A good timing on the work performance. We got lucky with the sidewalks, we got later in the year, but if we would have had a foot of snow out there, it would have been next spring. So it's nice to get it out front and the people to make a commitment, they're gonna do the work for us, for the price that they quote, and then we then say, yes. we accept the
Yeah, no,
orders.
that makes more sense.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry for those being a little flustered, but that's okay, it's part of the process. Good discussion.
okay, any other questions, comments on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried.
So that's just the second and the third motion. The first motion is sort of redundant anyways, because it refers to putting in budget deliberation, and that's included in the motion.
Yeah, well, no, this one is more for operating than it is, because this was the operating budget versus the capital.
Yeah, but the budget would be for capital funds, as I mentioned.
No, but this is the operating budget.
Yeah.
So can we leave this one until we do our budget?
Oh, yeah, that's for, she gave us that as a heads up.
Oh, okay. So we don't have to approve this one.
No, not at all.
It's gonna come to the budget deliberation, and we can look at that again.
Yes.
Okay, so we're good there. Right, we can move on. Okay, 8.3. Musqueam Medical, get a motion on this. Yeah, go ahead.
The council direct administration as to actions to take related to Musqueam Medical Center's request for support of capital costs for their project, and the council direct administration to draft a letter for the Musqueam Medical Center for the mayor's signature advising Musqueam Council's decision.
Can I just ask a question? So what is the actions you want us to do? Do you want us to advise them that we're not supporting them, or we are supporting them?
Wow, this is what you brought in here.
Okay.
So what is your motion say?
Okay, basically, capital cost, council may choose to direct administration to draft a letter for the mayor's signature from Musqueam advising that the council is not able to support the capital costs, as to do so would affect the resident tax base beyond how it currently stands. And if you read the letter from Musqueam, they didn't want to do that,
Yeah.
So, what we're asking is council to direct what you want us to do. And I would suspect, please, not trying to put words in your mouth, that with regards to the vote for capital, that will be option one there, which I just mentioned out. With regard to the other thing, draft a letter for Musqueam support for the senator. So that's basically, if we support the project, not making a capital commitment. So that would be the letter we provided, and then also advising that because of the tax implications, that we're not able to at this time support the tax increase or the grant.
They were looking for a letter of support that would get sent to the minister also. That was one of the.
That's the one to do with the letter of support.
Okay,
We agree with what they're doing, but just up to you guys.
okay.
So again, the options, option one for the first one, and then option one again, And so those are the two, they talk about option ones there, that's usually by,
So we draft a letter of support for the,
National Medical Center.
yeah, we can say a letter of support.
And that's what's in there, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, letter of support, okay.
And that's gonna go to the minister as he had asked, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Let's
let's,
do that as a motion, to complete.
yeah, let's do that one, just so we're clear. Everybody understand the motion? All in favor? Carried. So the second part of it, would be to direct administration whether we will contribute to their capital costs or not. So, and
Oh, it's clear, that's part of our.
so we're gonna direct administration that we're not going to support, right? Yeah. I think everybody, they had a pretty big ask there for our small town and having a big one. It's a fantastic idea and concept.
Somebody making that motion then?
Sure. Okay, John's making it.
You want me to read it? I think everybody's read it. Direct administration draft letter for the mayor's signature to the Muskota Medical Center, advising them that council is not able to support capital costs and as to do so would affect the resident tax base beyond how it currently stands.
But that we would send a letter of
Yeah,
support.
we've already done that.
We voted that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this one? All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on then to 8.4, get a motion on this? Okay,
That council determine actions to be taken to provide administration with direction related to their decision. I know that's an open-ended motion, but do we want, let's just open up.
We don't have a decision. What they now are looking to do is what I've asked council to do is, again, my first option, and discuss it, but direct administration to research the matter and bring back information related to the action taken by this village, similar size to High Prairie, regarding the provision of the information related to council timesheets, council expense claims, and or expenditures authorized by each councillor for the community grant fund, and bring them back for, along with the draft policies of future council meetings. We should have a policy for that. We need to find out what's everybody else doing on this. Unless council's sure what they want to do, but there's multiple options you can find. You could actually put copies of the claims up. You could put a recap of them, it's a lot easier. It would be a lot easier for staff, because this no one calls staff time. But we can go get that information for you. We did that time, because this was something that was asked to be added to. So again, anything that's added to, I usually bring it back to the council and then give a direction, not that I was getting direction from a council. Okay, I don't want to take that and there for the next person coming in here. So that would be the motion there.
Okay.
And then we would bring that back to future meeting, and it would be clearly spelled out what the policy. And again, we would have to have policies, so that's in case somebody says, well, it's not being done. We have a policy that says it has to be done. Then there's something to be questioned, whether it's from somebody from council or somebody from the community. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So I get a motion.
okay, yeah, do you want to make that motion, that one that council direct administration to research the matter and bring back information related to that?
No, I'd actually like administration to draft up a policy.
That's in there. That's in that
Okay,
large paragraph there. You get the information about other municipalities. Just
Can
bring
I-
back options and bring back a policy.
Yeah, can I ask why? Because this is already put in our budget. People can go and see what exactly we spend, what exactly is there. So can I ask what this is going to do?
Right now, the only reporting that happens,
there is none, you can't see.
the only reporting that happens is that year-end financial statements.
Yeah.
Okay, so there it's listed by counselor by name during the period of time for the year, how much was spent on salaries, how much was benefits, et cetera. I was told that they were looking for was something where during the year we update this, expenditures are made, we put that on our webpage. And so they would open up, council expenditures and they get a report of whether it's in total and just year-to-date amount for wages, year-to-date amount for expenses, year-to-date amount for, or listing each and every claim, which becomes even more work on us. Again, it'd be a spreadsheet, and it's just a matter of opening up and closing it up. But we can look at either one of those options, bring it back to council and decide, yeah, that would suffice, to be able to say, you know, and then to be able to marry that up at the end of the year with what the auditors put in their report. Or if you want to say, okay, the councilors all went to an 80 Muni convention, and this councilor spent so much, this councilor spent so much, this, you know, whether it's into those details and the weeds, again in total, or then spend so much on taxes, so much on, you know, it can really get detailed and it becomes a project for somebody to have to maintain.
Well, that's what I was thinking, like, this is all done. Like, in doing that, are you gonna also put in then the meetings that are assigned to counselors that they choose not to accept, their gratuity on?
Council decision,
So,
council direction, pardon me.
as far as I'm concerned, like what was it? Maybe not last meeting, meeting before, or when we were talking budget, there was this clear statement for every one of us on what we spent and what our expenses were, what are our
At that budget meeting, I was here at the time, so I can't. speak.
That was the audited financial statement that you're talking about.
That's a total.
That was a total for 2024. What's being, yeah, 2023, thank you. It's getting later,
It's
but,
easy to do.
the suggestion is that we put up every month what your expenses are.
Yeah, sure.
But that's the thing, so, and the motion is, to direct administration to see what other communities are doing, give us some options, and we can look at
Communities
it.
of similar size.
Of similar size, that's the
Yeah,
motion.
Well, what's the county do?
It's posted up on the website. It's posted up on 90% of municipalities.
And when we do the survey, we check, you know, neighboring municipalities, and then if we need to get other communities of our size, I'm not sure who is of our size outside of our little area here. Slave Lake's much bigger, Valley View, I'm not sure what their size is, Fox Creek or whatever, but we would bring that back and we put the population numbers next to each one of those two, so we can compare them.
And I think the only thing that you gotta realize is that there's an expense to doing that, right? It's the administration's time to do that and have an idea of what that cost would be. Okay, any other questions on this motion? Oh, sorry, you made which motion though? I just wanna make sure I'm clear.
Okay, mine was very vague.
Yeah, yours was-
To provide administration, I just wanted to open it up for discussion.
Okay. Do you want to move to the one that council may, would direct administration on page 52? To research the matter and bring it back?
Okay, but do you want to take the question from Councilor Miles?
Well, I want to make sure I'm clear on the
Okay,
motion.
yes. That we do the research and bring it back to draft a policy.
Okay, thank you. So now, Councilor.
Well, yeah, my first question was, do we even have a motion on the floor? We're
Well,
doing
we
all this
did, but
discussion.
it wasn't.
Very vague, just open up this.
Great, well, thank you for the question, or the motion rather. So my question is this, we're directing administration, I'm cognizant of time, this is budget season. Let me ask, can't we simplify it? Like, this question is to council, which one of us is not ready to be transparent? Like, I take all of my stuff, put it out there, you don't even need to do anything special. Scan all of the stuff that we give you monthly, there's no extra time to that. Which councillor here is not open to, like, we have nothing to hide. My last municipality, we did that every month with all of us. So what's the problem? Like, this is transparency. We don't do anything untoward. We're probably one of the lowest paid councils. So what's the issue? Why do we need to have the administration spend more time? Let's just make our stuff public.
We still need to do the policy.
Fair, but is there anyone here that's
Not,
opposed to having this
Just
stuff be public? Like, I'm just curious, because I don't, like, let's not waste time if we're all in favor of this. Is there any opposition? Okay, well, great, then we're good.
So just copies, you're just looking at having copies of claims and timesheets.
Yeah, just scan it and put it
That's
there.
okay, if that's where everybody's good at that, that's what the proposal I'll bring back.
But I'd like to know what the other communities are doing.
I can ask them.
Just like I don't have a problem, but I'd like to know what others are doing. Is that what they're doing, just scanning the timesheets and putting them on, or are they doing something different?
Well, it's
So,
consistent.
Mr. Mayor, it's a matter of 10 minutes of picking any community.
Well,
But
that's what
going to-
that's what we're asking them to do, to pick.
And
Okay,
then we need
so
to go ask the question.
why can't we each take it upon ourselves to pick a community and go on their webpage, go on government, go on counselor, and it's right there. Like, we're putting this on to administration, when there's nothing wrong with us taking 10 minutes out of our time from our monthly wage and seeing what other communities do.
The question
And
is.
we don't
does
need to direct administration, we're directing council to each go out and do that. Is that what you're saying? What's your motion?
You know what my motion is, but I don't understand why you can't do your own homework, a little bit, 5 minutes of your own homework.
We
Why
could-
does administration have to do this? It's very, like I said, it's very simple, pick any community, pick 3, 4, anyone, go there, it's all there. We are probably one of, I don't know how many who don't do that.
I'll echo that in saying, I've seen it before, I don't know Minter Herman if there are size or not, but I've seen it in Valley View, I've seen it in Big Lakes, I've seen it, just because I used to research, like, for different reasons, I've seen it in financials, very detailed. I don't understand, what our hesitation is. I think our ratepayers have a right to know what it is we spend money on, whether it's $5, whether it's $100, whether it's $200. Like, I don't see the issue in taking up your time for you and your staff, because I know it's precious and, you know, you're limited. I'm all for simplifying. That's why I asked a question to council if they have any objection, because I don't see why it would be such an onerous thing, right? Even this motion coming back the second time, you had very clear direction 2 weeks ago when we had our meeting. We've kind of put another middle layer and delayed it another 2 weeks. Like it's not difficult to show our expenses, you know, publicly. Like that's, I don't know. I think I said to someone in an email, any of my stuff is open game. You know, have at it.
I'm not looking for extra work, please, but at the same time, the administration's job is to do the administrative work on behalf of council. You know, and there's nothing to say council can't go do their own work. You know, similar to reading the package before a meeting and being prepared to discuss things at the meeting, is to, if that includes also checking, what is Valley View doing, finding that out for yourself, fine. But, you know, we can bring that information back. I can do an email group and just go CAO to Valley View, CAO to here, to here, to here. Please give me the information, what policies you have regarding this, and send it to me, and then I can include that in there.
Councilor Yushishin.
I guess basically you just answered it. I was gonna say that it's a decision of administration if they have time or not. We can't be putting words in his mouth that he's too
We would
busy.
make time,
So-
I serve at the pleasure of council. I then give staff jobs to do, but I would probably take most of this on myself. They would then, the job would go to staff once we get to a decision of what we're going to do.
There was two different, we were talking about two different things there.
There's also just developing a policy, getting the information for that, and then to do the work afterwards. Policy part.
Thanks.
Sorry, I'd like
There's-
to ask that we have this put on the meeting as a whole, and we can also.
Yes,
do it.
we'll try to discuss it again.
And it's coming up.
It's coming soon. Okay, I'll add that too.
The other part in here, Herman, that I was reading in your, the options was that, council expense plan for the community development fund.
Yeah.
Oh, and what is that, what's that?
The grant.
We grant community channels $4,000.
So is that to go up on the website? Is
That would
that
go on the website to say each counselor, you know, we can include that because it's the expense of each counselor. Say who spent what, where that money's been allocated to. And we have that already. That's not a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Because because we already keep track of that just for being able, staff being able to say that.
But do we list which ones
Yes.
got it?
Yes.
What amount?
That's what I would probably bring back, is who got it, who gave what to that group.
Well, I'd be interested, really interested if other communities are doing that too.
Well, I'm not sure how many of them actually have a grant that they
No, they
share.
don't.
Well, but do
Not
they
the grant.
post how much money that they give out to each of the organizations? I'd be sort of interested to know that. You know,
That's a
so,
different,
And it needs to be separate from all the other stuff. Because I don't want somebody saying, oh, well, this is money that you spent that is a part of what you make, because
It's
it
not.
simply is not.
it's not money.
And I think that's where some people will get confusion, and there may be some things pointed out. So, it needs to be clear that this has nothing to do with what a counselor makes or anything like that.
It's separate, pardon me, it's separate from, and it would be identified separately in the table that's put up there on there, and that it is money that's available for grants to community organizations from council, but then how much each council contributes, and that's public record anyways, because that's included in the minutes when you make the motion to support minor hockey or whichever it is, that each councilor, whoever decides what they're putting in there, $400, $500, they share it, but if it's only 5 of them, then that's fine, they would show the amounts for that organization. And again, if there's one person who uses all of his grant money, that it's been allocated to him to, it's not that he's, that's fine. If somebody doesn't spend anything, that's fine, but we'll bring that back.
okay, so we have the motion on the floor. We're okay with, all in favor? It's carried. Moving on then to accumulation of rewards.
Like we talked to this, your worship?
Sure, we usually start with a motion.
Okay, I think the motion discussed the matter, direction to be taken, so if council's decision is to receive the information provided, or presentation provided for information, then that would be one thing. If then somebody wants to get more into it.
Okay, I'm gonna make the motion that council discuss this matter,
Yes,
period.
yes, that's a good one.
At this, just to get it going, okay. And you wanted to speak on this?
Yeah. So basically, I did look into, first off, the credit card usage, because we do utilize the Royal Bank, our credit cards are through there. There are rewards provided based on the transactions, but those rewards accumulate over the Royal Bank. Nobody has until such time as we go and say, okay, here, we want to utilize them and bring it to council. But in this case, because we're switching from there to the ATV, we're a treasury branch, when the time comes to close out and get the total amount of rewards, we would then go get a catalog of reward options from that, and then we bring it to council, similar to when we're doing expenditures, and say, okay, here's what we can do. And there could be as wide ranging as prepaid credit cards for recognition of service. We have a policy for recognition of services of 5 years, 10 years, whatever, because of a gift up to amount. So those could be utilized for that. It could be something for large screen TV replacement. No, I don't think we got enough points for that, but it's been a long time. But we would bring back council options and as well as the county. But which option do you guys decide on? If I utilize my credit card, no different than you. If you utilize your credit card to pay for gas, you're going to Red Deer, and you happen to get petrol points, or you happen to get PC Optimum points, or whichever. That, we're not controlling anybody's personal credit card usage. The major expenditures, hotel bookings and that are done through the town credit cards for that purpose. So with regards to utilizing something like Travelocity, Expedia, or whatever, that town does not have an account with. And so we do just go on, and if we do get something, we sign on as a guest. If somebody as a staff member does that same thing and uses his own personal Expedia account, which we don't believe anybody is, then we would expect that they wouldn't utilize the points, but there's nothing to say, we don't get a report back on their Expedia account. So there's no way to do it, but the policy is we do things through the town office for that purposes and not utilizing our personal, wherever possible.
So that's kind of my question. Do we have a policy on those reward points and stuff?
I don't believe we have.
So I'm gonna change my motion
Okay.
to to
Bring back
say
policy.
that, administration brings back
Draft policy.
a draft policy regarding, reward points. How they can be used, who can use them, when they can use them, what they can be used for.
Supplied by a supplier or a bank? Is the bank ones that's, well, bring it both.
Yeah, to bring back
Yeah.
on reward points.
Supplier, policy.
Yeah.
Draft policy.
Councillor Daneka?
I know in the past, I can't remember if it was maybe my first term or second term, I can't remember, but they did, at one point, they did have a draw for the points. There were 3 draws. And I know Tom McNabb won one, I won one for certain, because they split the points.
Yeah.
But like I said, that was a while back.
I don't think any one person should, again, it's like a decision of council.
Yeah, bring back a policy on what you think would be a good way to use it.
Utilize for
Oh,
staff recognition.
Could be staff recognition, or it could be
Or how about offsetting our
Our expenses.
expenses?
using those travel points to pay for hotel rooms.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we'll look.
Okay, anything else on this one? I made the motion to bring back a policy. All in favor? Carried. Appointment to Alberta Health Advisory Council.
We missed the deadline.
Well, it was today at
At
noon,
noon.
but if somebody was really interested, we might be able to get in.
Well, I think that we have a member on council who would be a very good representative on this committee, but unfortunately, she's been banned from committees.
Councillor Shisha?
I would definitely be interested.
We missed the deadline.
Well, yeah, I mean,
We could submit the thing, and then again, the motion, if you're going to appoint her, subject to the review in January 2025. And, because once you appoint somebody, you can always replace them, it's just to have somebody there on the board to start with, and then I would bring that back, because that would then become a part of the list of appointments. And, but the first step is to get a person, get a name, and get the information into them. We're day late, but
So, may I ask a question? Is this part of our organizational committee meetings? Like, is this, I didn't see that on the list.
because we were not a member, we didn't, this just came in recently, November 7th, this came in, okay, for request for. So we would respond to this email with the name as if provided by council, and then also provide them information that this is appointment as per now, but it will be subject to review by council and reassignment to another council if that's the decision of council.
It's getting late again. Did we make a motion on this yet?
Yeah.
What was the motion? Councillor Musician?
No, we didn't.
No, that's what I,
Will determine what action should be taken.
okay, we're determining what action to take. Who made that motion?
Nobody.
Nobody made it. Okay, that's what, I didn't think
Because
so.
we missed the deadline.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that council take forward Councillor Yushishin, that put forward her name for the Regional Advisory Council.
Yeah, that's fine.
And now does, just so I-
direct administration provide a response
to that, okay, administration, okay, I direct administration to follow up with that, see if we can get her in. Okay. All in favor?
I just have a
Oh,
question.
sorry, I didn't, okay.
So by putting a name forward, that doesn't necessarily guarantee you, because it says interviews will be held.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. All right,
Yeah, nothing's guaranteed with that council.
okay.
It's a new council. Anything else?
And it was a laborious process. I mean, I've gone through the interviews, they do checks, and I think I even have to do a criminal check, and it was a whole like 2-month process, and you do several interviews, and it's through, I don't know, it was Slave Lake last time I did it, so.
Okay, all in favor,
So we won't be on that.
opposed?
I was opposed, sorry, I missed it.
Okay, it's still with Carrie. Moving on to appointments in the library board.
Okay, before we make a motion, I know, I want to comment, but I don't understand this. All these other things were an in-camera thing. Why is this one public?
Go ahead.
The request for submissions was public. The applications or responses we got back, and it was public based on our Facebook page and the county also did this. And so the only response was one person. The appointment has to be, the meeting we had regarding the organization was not a closed meeting, it was open.
No,
You
no,
weren't here
this
tonight.
is prior to you, Herman. All this was always done.
I'm just saying, the organizational meeting, if you read the minutes, was an open council meeting. It was not a closed session, there was no council closed discussion.
But what, I just, I hear what you're saying, Councillor Stenhouse,
Yeah,
is that
because
if we would have had multiple people applying, and then you've got to discuss this sort of in public, and that's not, you don't want to, say yay or nay to somebody in a public
Those
meeting.
discussions would be in a closed session.
And if we wanted to discuss the candidate,
Yeah,
in this case,
we can't,
yeah,
well,
we can't,
it's
really, right?
uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know what you're saying with that, it's not and it probably should have been a closed session, and when we came out, we could say, yeah, we could make the motion to do that. And we do have to go into a closed session, because the Rick Vogel is at 8:30, you said?
Was at 8:30, or he'll be available, waiting for our call, so.
So let's
So-
table this.
What I'm going to suggest is that we go into the closed session, meet with, Rick, and then we'll come back and finish our agenda. Is people all right with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we'll do, and perhaps when we're in the closed session, we can also talk a little bit about it and come back and make our motion on this.
This would be a closed session under section 17, I think, which is personnel matters, so this would be personnel too.
Yeah, okay.
Do we want to go to that closed session early, or do we want to?
Well, it's 8:30, so we'll maybe make the motion to go into the closed session.
Is nobody else here? So-
Yeah.
He is available, yes, I talked with him. It's going to be by telephone. We don't have the fancy stuff, so I'll have the phone, and I'll have the microphone. I've got some documents to pass out, so I'll pass those out beforehand, again, powder paper,
But we don't have a motion to go into
closed session.
closed session.
Yeah.
So I'd like to have that motion, so we know
Yeah.
which specific items we're referring to, like the FOIP section.
Void section 17 related to personnel.
Okay, so I'm gonna make the motion that we move into a closed session, under section 17 of the FOIP agreement, FOIP Act. All in favor? Carried.